Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. In this episode, I'm going to teach you about burnout, how to avoid burnout, signs to know if you're on the verge of burnout, if you are burnt out, what to do, and then strategies to avoid it. So before I even do that, we first need to identify what burnout actually is and the signs of burnout so that you know if in fact you are burnt out or on the verge of it. I reflected on this in my recent trip to Arizona. It was amazing. I hired a new business coach, Chris Harder. He is incredible. I met his wife, literally nicest people on the planet. It was so great to be in their energy. And, part of me was a little hesitant to travel. It was my first trip since COVID-19. And, I'm sure if you've traveled or maybe you haven't traveled, there's many reasons behind it, right? The airplane, you can get sick, just being, more exposure to more people who could be sick. I was going to a state which happens to where the numbers have kind of been on the rise. So there was all these thoughts and self-doubt and worry. But at the same time, I really felt like this is what I needed for both my mental health and also for the health of my business. So my business, I really wanted to grow, and I just can't stand another year going by without me really doing stuff to really push the needle forward. And I really just identified that, me building my business and making impact in this world is really important. Now, with that doesn't mean that I go around acting like an idiot and never wear my mask and don't take care of myself. I took all the precautions. I am going to record a brief episode actually about sort of the things that I do to make sure that my immune system is on point. There are no guarantees, but there are things that I implement on a regular basis, and then things that I do or supplements that I take during these moments of when I'm at a greater risk to potentially contract anything other than COVID-19, like any disease, virus, illness or whatnot, and the steps that I take to do that. So I'm going to share that with you on the next episode. But for now, I want to just talk about how when I went on this trip, I really realized that I was on the verge of burnout before I had left. I didn't recognize it. It's always easy to see things when you take yourself out of the equation, right? You gain a new perspective, but I think the signs were there. I was super anxious all of the time. And I'm not really that much of an anxious person. I have anxious thoughts, but it was really something that I felt like this drive and desire that I had to work. And if I wasn't working, my business would fail or something would crumble. It was just very, very strong. And it's definitely not a healthy way to live, to feel like you need to be working all the time. Because then if you're not working, then the anxiety comes up and you feel like you're doing something wrong. And plus I didn't build this business to feel like I have to work all the time. That's what I did before. I was just working for other people, but I built this business to have a life of freedom, to give back, to show up on, social media and all that stuff, but not feel obligated that I had to, and that if I didn't, everything would crumble, which is also just a lie that our brains tell us when we're super stressed out. And so obviously I was stressed out, and it's easy to see now, but I think that for you who maybe you're like, oh yeah, I'm not there yet, or haven't been there. I didn't really think I was there either. And so I kind of want to just explain a little bit of why this probably happened. Especially if you compare yourself to other people, you might see people or know people who are super, super stressed and you're not there. So in your mind, you're like, oh, well, I'm not as bad as so-and-so. But realistically, stress is a natural thing. We're going to go through it, but you can tolerate, you don't need to have as much stress in your life as, Susie or whatever, but you also that doesn't mean you need to tolerate any amount of stress really. It's just having things in place to help mitigate that stress. Okay. So I think we first need to identify that, like, I'm not the only one who got super busy in this pandemic, okay? It's ironic, right? The whole world went on pause, and then somehow I sped up. But that's not just me, you know? I know so many people have been busier than ever, yet now having more time to do all the things that they wanted to do, and yet not being able to find that time. They somehow filled their schedule. And that's because we as humans create what is familiar because it feels safe. So when everything felt so uncertain, I poured my energy into my work. I filled up all my time with tasks and meetings and like always needing something to do. And I know I'm not alone in this. Okay. And at first, you know, I think it was like what we all did in the beginning as like a survival mechanism. We didn't recognize how long this was going to go on for. So at first it was great. But then that pressure built over time, and then anytime I wasn't doing something, the anxiety grew, like I just shared before. And so I felt I needed this time away to create some space and shift my perspective. And I knew that going into it, I knew I was looking forward to this trip, and I could not wait for it, but I did not realize how badly I actually needed it. And so looking back now, it's easy to see that I was on the verge of burnout. And this is something I encourage my clients never to get to. I'm always talking to my clients about how to manage their stress, because if you're in emotional eating or you struggle with binge eating, often stress management is the very first thing that we need to kind of take a look at, because if we're not going to feel very good. Our energy is going to be drained. Our impulse decisions are going to be high up there because we're just like not living our best selves. Like we're just not aligned with what it is that we need to be aligned with. We're not feeling centered. We're not feeling grounded. And so we do all of these things, and we reach to food and we binge and we restrict, and we're just like so disconnected from what it is that we actually need because we're so invested in doing so many other things outside of ourselves. Okay, so this is something that I preach my clients never to get to. So now, before I kind of share with you some tips on, all these thought patterns that are going through your head and feeling that you need to do, I want to first kind of just quickly help you kind of see maybe some signs that you might be on the verge of burnout. And so the very first thing that comes to mind is if you used to enjoy something and now you literally dread it, so you lose interest in the things that used to light you up, that is clearly burnout, okay? So whatever you used to love to do, now you dread it. You're just exhausted. You're just tired. You're completely burnt out, okay? If you find yourself either super anxious or super irritable or snapping at your loved ones about things that have like literally nothing to do with them, right? Or you're just like maybe something that you used to kind of like let go, and things now you're just like it bothers you so much, you're probably on the verge of burnout, okay? So, and then the last sign is often like extreme fatigue. Like no matter what you do, no matter how much rest you get, you're still feeling super, super tired. Now that could also be, an illness or an ailment, but chances are it's probably related to maybe just the mental capacity, and you're just taking on way too much, okay? So those are the signs of burnout. Now, some things that I reflected on while I was on my trip was all these things that I was telling myself that I needed to do, I didn't actually need to do right then and there, because before I left, I gave myself permission to kind of take a break from the things that I used to do on a daily basis. And I recognized that I was totally fine. So 99% of the things that you think you need to do can wait. And saving them for another day doesn't mean you're going to fall behind. Okay, rather than getting stuck in the overwhelm of that never-ending to-do list, select one of those things. So maybe select the things that fall in that 1%. So you have like 99 things you think you want to get done. Chances are you'll be fine not doing them. However, there's probably like one or two things. So what happens is when we have this long list of things, we get overwhelmed and we do nothing. Or we try to do everything sporadically and impulsively, and nothing really ever gets done. But rather than taking a big look at that list and taking maybe one or two things that you can really do that's actually going to move the needle forward, whether it's in your business, whether it's in, the task you need to accomplish at work, whether it's, maybe just like household chores, like doing the laundry and doing the dishes. Maybe just tonight you do the dishes and tomorrow you do the laundry. Like it doesn't need to be so much of these things that you need to get done. Most of the time it can wait. All right. So the second thing that I reflected on is I think that you would benefit from switching up your routine every now and again. Now, obviously, like I had the opportunity of being able to go away, which I highly recommend. If you could maybe, if you don't feel comfortable flying, but you can do like schedule a weekend getaway, like please do that for yourself. Like really try to, and if you can't do that, then switch up your routine. If you normally, Mondays you do, I don't know, like for me, Mondays is content creation, Tuesdays is coaching calls, Wednesdays is podcast recording, Thursdays is coaching calls, Fridays is book writing. Like, it wouldn't hurt for me to every once and again, like I'm doing right now, recording this podcast on a Monday. Like it just provides a different type of energy. So I understand that you want to have like this routine, and I strongly believe in routines. And I think if you get into the habit of doing things at the same time and on the same days, it's super beneficial and it's going to really help you move forward. At the same time, if you get stuck in that, you get stuck in a rut, then you start to really just kind of go through the motions, and you start to become like ungrateful. You get tired of the day to day and you get caught up in the mundane. And then you start to focus on the little things in a very negative way, like maybe your tiny workspace. Like for me, I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment. My boyfriend and I live together. His almost 5-year-old daughter is with us 58% of the time. It's amazing that we actually get through the days like we do in a really great way. I have to say, it's definitely tested us, but I don't think it's only made us stronger. But at the same time, like when I was on the verge of burnout, I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to get out of here. And we are going to be moving soon. But the point is that I need to be grateful that I have the space, that I don't have to have this crazy commute. And the fact that I get to, if my day starts at 9, if I wanted to wake up at 8:30, I often wake up earlier because I like to like start my day before. But if I wanted to kind of roll out of bed, my bedroom is my office. It's actually an amazing setup, and it's super, super cool that I don't have to rush from A to B. And there's just so many things I can be grateful for. Okay. But when we're burnt out or on the verge of burnout, we start to become ungrateful for the things that I'm thankful that I even have a space to do work. So yeah, it might be tiny, but I have a space and I'm grateful for that. All right. The other thing that I reflected on is that whatever's stressing you now is not going to matter 10 years from now. Okay. So I want you to picture yourself with this successful future, looking back on the time you worried about whatever you were worrying about. So like, seriously, guys, in 10 years from now, is it really going to matter whether you folded the laundry and put it away? My suitcase, by the way, that we got back, Saturday late at night. Sunday, I just like vegged out, slept all day, got readjusted to the time zone. My suitcase is still not unpacked. Is that really going to matter 10 years from now? Absolutely not. Will I unpack it soon? Sure. But did it have to get done Saturday night? I was tempted to do it Saturday night. I was mad at myself for not doing it Sunday. And then I was like, wait a minute, who the heck cares? I mean, half that stuff is like for, warm weather, and we're, in the middle of a snowstorm. So I definitely don't need to unpack right now. Okay. So I was stressing about it, but there's literally no point. In 10 years from now, am I going to be stressing that I didn't unpack my suitcase 2 days after, or the day after I got back? No, absolutely not. All right. So that shift in perspective is going to remind you not to sweat the small stuff. So really just be mindful of that. Is this actually going to matter in 10 years? And probably most of the time, it's probably not going to. Okay. All right. So now I really want to talk about kind of that's like when you're kind of on the verge of burnout, or you might be in the middle of burnout. I think those are helpful strategies or things to just keep in mind in the middle of it. Now, if you want to truly avoid burnout, these tips are going to be helpful for you. And I also want to kind of just share that if you're not doing these things, so maybe you were once good at doing them and now you start kind of getting away from that a bit, that might be that you're on the verge of burnout. You're starting to slip a bit. Okay. So the first thing is to set boundaries. So if you notice your boundaries are starting to slip and you're starting to say yes for, maybe you don't normally take calls on a Friday and you just do like emails or whatever, and you start saying yes to calls on Friday, that means like, okay, what am I doing here? Why am I feeling like I need to have this call today? Why can't it wait? Chances are you might be on the verge of burnout a little bit. So setting boundaries is super important. Learn to say no to favors that require you to alter your plans and throw off your day. So really think it through. If you say yes to somebody, does that mean you're also saying yes to a bazillion other things you didn't prioritize or you didn't actually say yes to? So if you say yes to picking somebody up from school, or does that mean you're saying no to doing your workout, right? So really think it through. And if you can get help, and if the answer is no, I can't do that, then stick to that. Set those boundaries and stick to them, okay? If you're doing a favor for someone, make sure you really think it through and try not to do favors that require you to alter your whole day and plan off and throw off all your plans, okay? All right. The best way to prevent burnout is what I teach all of the time, is to check in with what you need. So do you need a nap? Do you need a good night's sleep? Do you need a bubble bath? Do you need a hug? Do you need to drink some water? Do you need to soothe yourself with some hot tea? Do you need to go for a walk? Whatever it is that you need, make sure you're checking in daily. So if you don't have a journaling practice, that's okay. Still, maybe check in before you start your day. What is it that I need? Maybe in the middle of your day at lunch, what is it that I need? Maybe at night before you go to sleep, what is it that I need? The more you check in with what you need and you honor that, the less you're going to feel like you have to play catch up in the long run, okay? And then the last one I think is super, super helpful because I think that it's going to help drive your behavior. So it's to come up with some stress management mantras and really just come up with things that when things are starting to get a little bit wacky and you're starting to notice that anxiety rise or the pressure rise or this feeling of I have to do this now, start to think of your mantras, okay? So everyone has different ones. This is something I actually posted about a year ago, and I had different people kind of share with me what their stress management mantras are. And so I kind of jotted a few down. So I'll share you mine, and mine is this too shall pass. So it might be stress to me now, but this too shall pass. And that's a reminder that this isn't going to matter 10 years from now, okay? Another one that somebody wrote is I am capable. So whatever you have at hand, you're capable. You will get through it, okay? Another one is tomorrow is another chance to do better. Love that, meaning you don't have to get it done today. You can try again tomorrow. Another one is they will not get the best of me. Love that. So if other people are really triggering you, really getting at you, really trying to, what we call it, their energy vampires, they're like sucking out your energy, just remember, they will not get the best of me. Okay? And then the last one someone wrote was, whatever comes my way, I can handle it. I love that. Whatever comes my way, I can handle it. All right. So these mantras are so much more than words. So when you use them with intention, they have enough power to really reignite your energy so you can radiate and vibe higher. And it's important that you keep these close to you, or you just it's almost on autopilot. So you're feeling stressed out, this too shall pass, right? So just trust. I know this is some really, really hard times right now. We're all probably on the verge of burnout, or if not already burnt out, just being in COVID and not having our usual outlets of like we're used to do. And for that reason, we might be working more because it's no longer like, oh yeah, on the weekends I go away. So now people are like, oh, what else are you doing? You're home. You may as well answer this email. Like, no. Set your own boundaries. Okay. Repeat your mantras and make sure you check in with what you need. All right, guys, that is it for me today. If you enjoyed this episode, screenshot it, share it on your story, tag me at Tips with Tony or at the Tips with Tony podcast. If you have suggestions for future episodes, you can email me tipswithtony@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.